I've been looking a lot at just Twitter.
Just Twitter. What
Just
do you
Twitter.
mean?
Twitter is a hellscape on this earth. That's all I have to say about that website ever. Like, it's just okay. So yesterday, no, 2 days ago, people were talking about this Netflix show that came out that is called Cuties.
Oh, that film.
Yeah, that film.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
people showed me the original like poster, and then talked to me about the original film. Hey Esther, hey Fernie, hey Ada, and like, you know, they showed me a bunch of the stuff, right? And I was like, oh, that's gross. Why would they make this? Then like,
Hang on, you need to change the go live message was on Mary
oh,
Mother
what
for
was
some
it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's something. But you know, people are talking to me about the about the show. They're telling me, "Oh, dude, no, it's really gross." And then like, fast forward like a day, and then there's like a whole new story about how Netflix is just stupid. I'm not ready. And I'm not ready for this. I'm never ready for this. But like, it was so funny how like within a day we've gone from how disgusting to actually wait. Wait a minute. What is Netflix doing here, and why have they done this? It was hilarious. This is what I should do with my time more.
The thing is, right, you can dunk on Netflix's marketing, but at the same time, it could just be done. Like, I'm gonna float the conspiracy theory that it's done on purpose.
You
like,
think so?
Everyone will like, yeah. I mean, outrage marketing, so that everyone is like, you know, that now it's everything that everyone's talking about. Because otherwise, it would have just gone like under the radar. I think it's kind of sad in a way, because it kind of implies that it's a movie that doesn't stand on its own merit, and there's still people who are saying that you didn't have to do it. You could have just like done a documentary. Why did you have to exploit like these like child actresses?
The thing is, like, the real movie isn't even exploiting. It's talking about the point in a movie, and it's not exploiting anyone. So I don't know. I don't get people anymore. I am above the human condition. I am a god. This is me having my power trip at 1 a.m. Wonderful. This is how I wanted to live my life for so long.
Yeah. You see, the reviews of it, if you go to Google reviews, and also for the people who were at Sundance Film Festival, they were all oh yeah, chocolate. We are talking about the mignons. How do you pronounce it in French? I know.
I haven't spoken French in fucking 5 years.
Cuties.
Mignones.
Yeah, it's called Cuties in English, and yeah.
It's a film, and I think you should watch it. And I think it's actually probably a good film, because that's a lie. I was about to say most things that go to Sundance are good films. That's a lie. But some things that go to Sundance are good films, unlike some things that go to Cannes, which are usually bad films. Yeah, the Cannes Film Festival is a lie.
Yeah, so here's the thing, right? People were like, just because it was made by like a female like black director doesn't mean that she wasn't being pedophilic and catering to them. She was being brainwashed by those people who funded it. And look, the Sundance guy was jailed for like some sort of pedophilic shit. You can tell, like, I'm obviously really like, what the hell, man.
Yeah, I know. If
you don't really like it, I can sort of understand. Yeah. But in some ways it's like, guys, I'm pretty sure. Now I get there's a merit, like going like, must you really like make a film like this? But from personal experience, when my brother and I were still doing like sort of like speech and drama lessons when we were younger, like we're talking about tween age. We had a mock talk show about child sexual abuse. Okay, sorry, should have put the trigger warning. Yeah, so to prepare for that, see, my brother at the time was like what 5 years old. So because at the time in Malaysia there was this huge case about like about this sort of thing going on, so we had to find. Our teacher was like, "This is like we'll try to find a way to like sort of talk about it, but try not to like traumatize the kids and all that." So my brother was designated as like sort of a host of this mock talk show at 5 years old. So beforehand, our parents had to have a talk with us about like how the birds and the bees worked, and how there's some really sick people out there. So all these sorts of things. I would imagine, right, a responsible director and working hand in hand with responsible parents who are subjecting their kids to if you're sending a kid to like be an actress at such a young age, unless you're like. Yeah, so if the subject matter is like this, you probably have had to sit down and have to talk to them, because that's not. Because otherwise, right, you're just gonna end up like with those parents who are like in America's Dance Moms or something like that. Ooh. Okay. Oh God. Next you're gonna tell me that you watch Keeping Up with the Kardashians as well. What?
My bad. Where was I? The coronavirus has been a very long time, and I've had very little to do. Don't judge me about watching Keeping Up with the Kardashians. Just saying. There's no reason for everyone to attack me. But if you did, it'd be funny.
Yeah. Yeah, Sneaky, you totally missed. You might have missed like the earlier stuff, and we talked about that. Yeah, we acknowledge that most of the criticism is about Netflix. Why are you doing this? And but there was still there's still quite a local, quite a vocal subset who were like still dunking on the
film,
on the director. Otherwise,
her too. Yeah.
Yes,
she left Twitter. Yeah. That was very sad. She left Twitter. Do you know why that's very sad for me particularly? Because like I don't really go anywhere else anymore. So if she left Twitter, I have lost all of my spicy takes. Like without Twitter, I don't get to see people just kind of make a fool of themselves publicly. But anyway.
Twitter is one of those places where it's got its like perks, but at the same time,
I know. I will say it's got its perks. Fucking bird app.
Yeah. Well, I call it bird side like as well. I think you might have called it from me, right?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. So I will be grateful to Twitter for like providing me with opportunities, because that is how I got my like current job, translating for manga materials. But at the same time, because of this limit and because of how like people interact, it's sort of like geared towards like outrage engagement as well, and nuance is really hard to convey in like within the limits of a tweet because of the character limit.
Yeah, pretty much. Like you can never have a meaningful argument on Twitter. You can never have a meaningful. I don't know what.
It's not just that. There are also a lot of bad faith actors out these days. Actually, speaking about like, we will go live soon, because I think we're to. Yeah, we can adjust that in things like because we got news aplenty, but we will
news up the wazoo.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes it sound like we're like some like gossip portal, like Holly Scoop or something like that. Like covering like the latest like sound bites and stuff about happenings. But yeah, there are quite a few things as well.
quite
things that we would have covered like last week when they happened, but we have not because
And this Kaz, is why I think that we should have an entire news show. So we can cover it when it happens and then talk about it later, like we do all the time.
Yeah, but the thing is, comics news is
weird.
it's weird. It's weird. You've got people who are like, oh god, like why would you do this to like why would you do this? Like comics news reporters are just like terrible. They're like just as bad as game journalists. Blah blah blah.
The criticism of game journalists is so deserved. I love it. I'm living for this. Okay.
Are we live yet?
Yeah, I'm ready to go live. All right. Today we're going to talk about news, tapas, and everything else. Let's go live. This is me. Hi. Welcome to episode 43 of the Webcomics Hubcast. Good morning.
Hello, guys.
It's 2 in the morning. Jesus.
Biggest news of all, Ayashi unveiled my cow rendition to the Discord.
Oh my god, I can't believe.
Okay, so I will provide a bit of context, right? So within this sphere of creators, right? Ayashi is the editor / co-creator of Therinthrope.
He's also
and also happens to be my direct mentor for things like for all things editing and writing concerned with webcomics. So just on a whim, right? Because of, I don't know if you can actually get it up, but no, sorry, that sounds wrong. I don't know if we can actually display this.
No, we can't because Jay gave the cow.
No, not the thing. I'm just trying to tell about the history of this whole cow thing.
Yeah.
So because when you order pizza, I think was it on Domino's or something?
On Domino's.
This weird ass banner like pops up saying like get to know our ingredients, and then
the cow's name is Estelle.
Yeah, so they put up a photo, so put up like an image of this cow called Estelle, and sort of like get to know ingredients, and it's kind of one of those like, wow, why would you do this?
Yeah, I know.
So within the server, right, they just turned it this huge sort of joke, and Estelle is now our mascot and shit.
Estelle is a wonderful cow. She's provided many a milk for many a cheese. She's also definitely dead.
Yeah. So Ayashi like just kind of asked like a bunch of random creators like, hey, can you like provide us with with Discord banners like featuring like your rendition of Estelle the cow? And obviously Nen is like all over this because Nen has long like if you guys remember us from early days of the show, Nen has been quite a fan of like I just want cow art.
Yeah, I know. I asked I've completely forgotten the name I'm supposed to use to call him. My brain is broken. Damn. What, have I actually forgotten his name? I have. But I asked someone to send me cow art earlier, and then they were like, oh, it was Andy. I asked Andy to send me cow art. I was like, I'll commission you some cow. Yeah, I was like, hey Andy, I got a commission. I'll commission you for cow art, right? I just need you to draw me a cow. And Andy goes, wait, you being serious? I'm like, yeah, I need you to draw me a cow. And then Andy just goes, no, not right now, but I would have done it if it was something normal, but no. Then he made me some bet based on some crap that we were talking about earlier.
Oh god, I can't believe he actually asked Andy Face for that. He's like the
I haven't had one in like 6 weeks. I'm going through my withdrawals, man.
Yeah. But yeah, now like the weird ass story behind like, at least this other movement of cow art that is not directly Nenly. But yeah, just some creators doing some weird like non sequitur shit like pop team mapping. Yeah. So on to our first bit of like actual news. This has been happening since like earlier in the month, but we're going to be talking about like huge staffing changes over at DC, which is owned by Warner Media, which is owned by AT&T.
Yeah. Oh wow, everyone! The conglomerates are coming for us.
Okay, then why don't you take it away since I've been like the one who was like.
Okay, so what I know about it, because I have been doing other things. What I know about it is that DC has laid off like a ridiculous amount of their staff, and the reason that I found out from just searching around Twitter has been that it has been essentially partially because of the lack of funding, but also because they think that DC Comics itself is not making enough money to be worth maintaining the amount of staff that they maintain. That is what I've heard. They put out a memo, which is I think how they fired people. Yeah, they put out a memo where they basically reorganized. They restructured, and then during this restructure, essentially pointed out to people just being kicked off. Like, it is amusing. There's a Bleeding Cool article about it. I'm not surprised actually by DC having to do this. I'll be honest with you.
Okay. Worth noting is that DC is this is not their first massive layoff or restructuring. A few decades ago in their history, that sort of thing has also happened.
And even in 2010, even in 2010, 2011, there was a big restructuring where they closed down virtually every office in New York. And it didn't matter what imprint. It was just New York offices. I did it in the Zuda Comics video. They closed down Zuda and a bunch of different imprints that all had offices in New York because they were like, this isn't worth it. And the main reason that seemed to be going around at that time was DC said that they basically didn't really have any confidence in anyone who wasn't doing superhero comics. And by superhero comics, they mean Batman. Because when you own Batman, you can do anything.
Yeah, I think that's probably what was going on. Like you own Batman and people still buy Batman, and lots of people are paying through the nose for it, and sort of become complacent, and you start not making other things. So interestingly, DC is actually the second biggest publisher, but it's not Marvel who's first. It's actually Viz Media.
Wait, Viz Media? I've heard that name. Yeah. Where have I heard that name?
Viz Media is the American manga publisher, and they deal in anime and all that.
I know. I was like, I know this name, and I've seen it at a lot of places. They're the ones who put out all the English versions of all the manga in America, right? Pretty much.
Yeah. So I think with the whole talk about DC Comics layoffs, we need to I found a few things. So number one, the lettering department, right? Yeah. So this is a little bit sketchy. The lettering department, when they got laid off, the head of the head, right, of the in-house lettering, because surprisingly for mainstream comics, mainstream comics, even though freelance is how most people will find their work these days, including lettering, some people still have in-house lettering arms, and I know that was the case for the big two for quite a while until they started moving back to freelance. So the head of lettering sent out this email about acknowledging the layoffs and departures, and I was made aware that a letterer had leaked that to Bleeding Cool, and then people had gone hey, why would you do that? Because Bleeding Cool likes to insert themselves into drama and stuff like that. And this was around the time when people were still not really clear on who was going and how many people were going in DC, because it was still very much hot grapevine kind of news.
Yeah. And then that's just it's like Bleeding Cool doesn't, I don't know. I don't feel like they insert themselves into drama. I feel like the reality is just they talk about the shit that sucks, and people who have power don't like it when you talk about the fact that they kind of suck. That's it. That's for me. But that's a personal one. I just like their website interface, and I've been reading their website for a few years now, so maybe it's just bias.
Yeah, but the thing is, right, it's a whole other can of worms, because you can talk about how, being cool is biased because of things that comics get, but that is another can of worms that we are not getting into it today, because I will get quite, irritated. I know people in our audience would be, I know we have some people who are on the side of Comicsgate. They will also get a bit, defensive too, and I refuse to I refuse to engage in that now.
No, that's perfectly fine.
Not unless we have a fully researched like show prepared about it, because
should we do that show idea I've been pushing around where I say where we invite Red Famous?
Oh God,
I've been thinking,
yeah,
it's a joke so far, but like every day it gets more real in my mind.
Yeah, I'm aware that Jay has mentioned invite Red Famous. Okay, So the reason why like Marvel has quote unquote fallen is because we are this is like including sales of like books or graphic novels.
Yeah.
So by issues alone, Marvel and DC are still like top dogs, but including graphic novels as well, because that's a segment of the market that is growing itself, not just like the floppy issues. Viz Media is up top.
I mean, that makes total sense though, because I don't know, maybe this is gonna be my weird perspective on it. When I bought manga growing up, and generally when most people I know buy manga that's in English, they don't buy it in a manga store. Like, you don't have to go to a comic book store to get a Naruto Shippuden issue. You know what I mean? Right? If you want to get like the newest Naruto volume, I don't go to a comic book store. I go to Walmart, and it's there. You know, but you go to a regular store. You go to a bookstore, you go to a regular place, and it's there. In the UK, if you want to buy manga anywhere, you can either go to Waterstones, which is a big bookstore here, or you can just go to a regular like shop, and it will probably be a volume of manga just lying around. Like, they're not like, cornering themselves. But I had this argument the other day with Jay and some other people, and I'll just bring it up. I think that the reason why comics are kind of experiencing their lows, especially now, more apparently than usually, is because they've relied on one type of store exclusively for like 20 years, and that's not paying off. Like,
then I also think that those types of stores also can be known to be quite hostile.
Yeah, I'm not going to a comic book store anymore. I'm a grown-ass man who pays rent and has a mortgage. I'm not wasting my time going to deal with nerds when I can go to Walmart where I buy food and also buy manga.
The way that manga is sold in Japan, right? If you're not collecting like the if you're not collecting like the special like Tankobon editions, which are like all compiled, the anthologies, right, which are like a bunch of different like manga stories, like with the latest chapters,
the Jump monthlies and weeklies and stuff.
Yes, they are just they're like, you can just go into like a convenience store or whatever and pick that kind of stuff up.
Yeah. Like even Geek Boy, he lives here with me, and he's like, I buy manga through Waterstones time to time, and from Amazon, just a regular bookstore where you can do other things other than buy manga. And like, you buy comic books now. There's only one comic book store in my town. It's in the dingiest part of the town. It's so far away, right? And every time I go there, it's dark. Like, I don't mean like this. I don't mean the sun isn't out. I mean like this store is just, there's no lights in the middle of a cloudy day. So you walk into a dark store on a dark day and you can't see shit.
I think like, you just I think you sort of have to think about distribution and accessibility when it comes to things like this. But I reckon it's because of the way that comic distribution is. So we have talked about comic distribution and how bleeping whatever messed up it is on this show.
And
because thank you, Diamond. Yes. And most bookstores do not feel like why are they gonna mess around with that sort of stuff, when manga distribution does not really have as much of the same restrictions about how much you have to buy, and how much you can, your return policies if things don't sell, things like that. Because I know Diamond is not very great about return policies.
Yeah, they're not. So, as far as, because okay, so with my there was a period of time where I had an exclusive membership with a Waterstones. They were doing a membership thing in my town. Oh, hey, Mayu. They're doing a membership thing in my town where essentially you could sign up and get as many books as you want if you're someone who read a lot, but you didn't have to buy every book, right? I think it was maybe a testing that they didn't go along with. But even then, when I would come in and be like, oh, can we get this book in? It wasn't there was no hurdles to pass. They would get me 2 copies of the book and be done with it. Right? Like, I can't imagine a comic book store going, oh, there's only 2 people in my town that want to read Saga. Let's order 2 copies of Saga, please. No, what will happen is they'll end up ordering 600 copies and then sell 2 and then have to sell those 2 for enough money to pay for the 600 copies that they bought, because Diamond sucks dick and comic book distribution is a farce. Like, I don't know what else to say about it.
I mean, that's why people are trying to find other ways, like, to bypass this sort of thing. So, like, either they're going to Comixology for their own stuff, because, like, if you're an indie and you don't have, like, widespread distribution, but you still want to be in stores, like, I mean, there are other ways that you can do it without having to use Diamond, but then obviously widespread is going to be a bit harder. So obviously people have been taking to the internet. I have mixed feelings about Amazon, but Comixology as a platform isn't that bad, personally. In terms of, like, if you're the kind of who also works in, like, works to, like, they have something in print, but then you'd also want people to be able to access your work on the cloud and, like, read it on Kindle and stuff like that. Conveniently, right, while talking about distribution and platforms, that leads to our biggest for today of the show. Now, some of you are here. And you were aware that we were set to interview Michael Son, who's the VP of content of Tapas Media. Yeah. So Tapas is known as Line Webtoon US's biggest competitor. I say biggest in terms of, like, not main presence, but as to, like,
because every other competitor they have is not legit.
Do you reckon? Like, what do you reckon? I mean,
my competitors. Like, I mean, for me, the main competitor of almost every webcomic website, in my opinion, personally, is always going to be a scanlation website. Any website that puts out scanlated manga. If you are a website that puts out scanlated manga, you are a bigger competitor to them than any of their competitors, because one, there are thousands of them. You know, it's no longer just a matter of it's one website I'm up against. You're up against, like, hundreds of different people pushing out content constantly. So for me, if you ever ask me, like, what's their biggest competitor, I will always say, like, Kiss Manga or Manga Dex or whatever, because they probably don't even get as many clicks, but if people want to read your content without having to pay you, guess where they're going?
Yeah, no, I'm talking about, like, I mean, platforms for monetization reasons, because it's not like, even if you upload your own stuff on Kiss Manga directly, it's not like you're going to get any funny stuff to buy. So in terms of, like, yeah, you're right. Legitimate platforms where you have the opportunity to monetize. Yes, Tapas is Webtoon's, like, second biggest, like, competitor. Yeah. Now, as you can tell, we do not have Michael Son on the show. I mean, even though, I will let Nen, like, go into the detail of that and, provide the, guiding on to, like, go back on track where necessary.
I scream in anticipation. Okay. All right. So, Michael was supposed to come on the show today. The main reason he's not here is Michael declined to come on the show because of the questions that we gave him that were from you guys and also from some stuff we had found out. Now, I'm just going to be, like, fully open with you and not pretend, and I'm going to show you the questions because it will save me a lot of stress instead of me, like, going, well, trust me. These are the questions I wrote for Michael Son. These questions are in order. This is kind of how I plan every show, right? The questions and everything is planned out so we have, like, a structure, right? For whenever we're talking with people that we're not used to, or whenever it's someone's first time on the show, or we've got very pointed things to ask.
Sometimes we forget to do it, but then again, it's usually because we've known the person well enough, or they're quite, like, happy to do, like, a freestyle kind of thing. Indeed. So yeah, like, hey, like, why not? Like, and we have mutual trust, and we're not going to ask them something that puts them on the spot too much.
Indeed. So, like, actually, that's even a really good point, to put them on the spot. To avoid putting them on the spot, I of course sent him information about these questions. Now, I didn't give him these questions wholesale the first time. I actually gave him a rundown of what they were, and I said, we're going to talk about you, we're going to talk about your company's approach to content, how you work with creators, and then there are 2 questions on the set of question list that I think are relatively difficult, that I really think that, but have been asked of us to ask of you, and I think that it would be great if you gave us your perspective on. These two questions are currently up on the screen. I am not hiding what they are. You can read them. You can ask me about them. You can ask me what context they were in, but that's pretty much what they are. They were basically questions about stuff that some creators have spoken to us about how they work, about they're working with Tapas, or the negative kind of perception they have of Tapas. So we were like, hey, as a company, you definitely should, know about this. And if you do, can you just tell us what you think about where that comes from, how you've kind of approached it recently? And then the next question we asked was quite simple. So on Glassdoor, and also just in private to me, because I've just asked some questions about it, I've learned that like Tapas has some kind of bad employee treatment. And you might ask me how that's relevant to comics, and I'll say it's very hard for a lot of creators to be confident in the company they're working with if said company is refusing to be, is not even good to their own staff, let alone a bunch of random creators they pulled off of the street, So
yeah, that's why a lot of people escape like the big, escape like wanting to work with like the big mainstream publishers because of treatment like this.
So,
which is not always happening. But
of course, it's not always happening. So of course, I'm saying it like, yo, this is something that's on about your company right now. It's something that I've been spoken to about, something I've read about. Do you want to just like speak about it? Give us your take. I went through, this is like 2 weeks of time to remove all accusatory tones in this because I don't want him to feel like I'm calling him a dick. Straight up.
Yeah, so I think we should provide a little bit of context. So Tapas has come under fire a number of times. Not saying that Line Webtoon has never, but Tapas were known for their creator incubator program, which is like they open up rounds of like applications and you apply like to pitch your own comic, and the way and there are ways that the funding is just distributed, the IP is distributed, and we have covered that before, and that it's a good opportunity if it suits you, but if you're the kind of person who is not comfortable with IP sharing, which now that I've had my experience like reviewing this sort of things, because a bronze winner of the contest, I can say that you actually can negotiate more than you think you can. Is the FAQ was not really well written, and it seems like the people who are working within the incubator program themselves, like the ones who are directly involved with the creators, they're all right, considering that creators have been sort of happy with to do what they do with Incubator, and it's provided opportunity for people to like either concentrate more on the comic because of the funding, the safety net that is provided by having advances and stuff. However, it's still worth like acknowledging like there are definitely people who raise concerns about it, and you can say things like, it's probably just like it's people who just want to bitch about it. They're not even involved with Tapas, but the reality is we have had these concerns from people who are on the platform or were on the platform.
Yeah.
And I get that.
Sorry, Kaz, sorry for cutting you off. I'm going to be straight up. One of the things that I read, and one of the things that was explained to me when I went through the unnecessary channels of asking questions, was that Tapas managers or people in positions of power would like publicly shame an employee, like in terms of like someone fucks up, the manager yells at them openly in front of everyone, is what I've been told and what I read from an actual employee review. If you guys don't know anything about Glassdoor, the company and the website, Glassdoor is a website where you can leave a review of the place you've worked at. Right? Writing a Glassdoor review, I've written like one in my life because it takes like an hour. It takes forever to write a review because you need to fill in so much minor details, right? Who did you work for? Who was your direct superior? What was your position? How long did you work there for? What did you earn? You can't leave any of this information out because you need to give them as much as possible to be able to conceivably say, you worked for this company. Everything needs to be filled of at least 100 words or more. Right, so you can't 100 characters or more, something like that. So you can't just put a shit company. It's got a lot of they ask you questions. They're pointed questions. How did you feel about management? How did you feel about this? How did you feel about that? What happened to you here and there and there? And there are different sets of questions and weightings for people who are former employees and people who have gone for an interview. And they will find out because every review is also read by a person. So it's not easy to be a dick on Glassdoor. I tried, so I know it's not easy. It's actually quite difficult and much more time consuming. And by the time you get through the process, you end up just kind of going, no. Like, you end up going, actually, I'm already here. I might as well be honest. So my point is, it's hard to leave a review on Glassdoor. People have left their own reviews and takes of things from, I spoke to someone in management and they didn't know what they were doing, all the way to, I was working at the company and they were acting particularly weirdly towards their regular staff. They should treat their staff better and then this is why I left. I was there for 9 months. I was there for 4 months. Understand that high employee turnover is not a good thing. So these aren't things that, but I'm just gonna contextualize last thing. I'm not calling him a bad person because these things happen, just so we're clear. I just think that if something happens in your company and it engenders a certain kind of feelings in the people who care about your company, have a stake in your company, you should say something that lets us know that, yeah, we get it. There's a second part of the story that we don't know and we want to understand. Because then we can feel more confident in who we're working with. Or at least you can feel more confident in who you're working with. But that's just me.
Yeah, so I get like the flip side where sometimes it's like, hey, don't feed the wolves because you give them something and they'll like latch onto it and like attack the company even more. I get it. I get that you don't really have to answer to anyone except the people who directly work with you and know. But the fact of the matter is like these were concerns. Tapas is not exactly okay, so a lot of like these Webtoon platforms, even Line Webtoon included, like we have raised concerns about like whether they're actually profitable right now, especially because they are relatively new compared to like a lot of other spaces, and monetization is always like one of those issues. And they're both of those phases where it's like get the user base. And then, before you can like confidently monetize them, to keep your company afloat and stuff. So that's why it's like, hey, if you're doing things and like it's really like likely to get the user base, raising flags about it, you kind of should be addressing that sort of thing, and. And it's not, and we don't go into these sorts of things without like trying to at least speak to at least do our research with like creators who had like the experience with on like the other side of the fence. And
if I wanted to badmouth Tapas, it takes fucking nothing out of my soul to just sit here and call my name.
Then you follow VBBG comics and you really love stuff. Now VBBG had a positive experience though.
Yeah, they seemingly did, and the only reason they seem to have gone somewhere else to put content was because contest, and that's it.
I don't know when the next episode of like Born Sexy, the next season of Born Sexy Tomorrow will come up, but but I think it's quite telling that when we put forward like these things, these questions, right? That what was it that he said verbatim? Like
the verbatim thing he says, he thinks that the questions are unfair, and he thinks that they're quite mean. In fact, let me open my email real quick, so that I can read it off and like not just quote him on something he didn't say. There it is. Despite you not wanting to put me on the spot, because I sent him these questions so he wouldn't be on the spot and can have answers to them. I do not feel like these questions are all that fair and seem quite mean-spirited to ask. Like
so. Well, what was it that I gave Nan, right, the suggestion that we could have like just left it at that and then just like gone on and like done our like hashtag like mean-spirited slander on this show. But what I did was I told Nan, hey, if you want to reply, send this back. I said thank him for his response. Say that you understand, like I say, I understand your apprehension. We're not trying to be unfair. If anything, we see it as an opportunity for creators who are interested in the platform to kind of feel reassured, particularly because at a time like this, mainstream comics is being disrupted to hell and back, and people are exploring like all sorts of different options to get their stories out there.
And it's not particularly great that the story that I know a lot of mainstream creators who are now looking into webcomics are hearing ends up boiling down to Tapas bad. Like, not even kidding. Like, I was just looking around through my DMs, just asking people random stuff, talking to people who work in collectives and make their comics on their own seller. And I'm just like, what have you ever heard of this company? And they've said either nothing or bad. And I don't know.
I think it's awkward because, right, we have to take a lot of time to invest a lot of time and energy into, like, creating stuff for platforms. And if we don't feel, and rather than like, okay, I've heard a lot of bad stuff about it, but I'm still going to try anyway, a lot of people might go like, maybe not. Like, I mean, what if it really turns out that, what is it? We're already quite precious about our own work.
Yeah.
And the amount of time you have to spend, like, formatting it and, like, trying to grow an audience on these platforms. So one thing I will acknowledge that Tapas do, like, have good ideas on, and I kind of wish that it was a thing on Webtoon, but, different strokes for different folks. The forums are interesting.
The forums are very interesting.
Forums are interesting. Some people like debate the merits of, like, forums versus, like, direct comments, which is the only thing the Line Webtoon offers. Yeah. Then the option to publish novels or, like, writing on it that doesn't include art, or maybe you can have illustrations in it, but it's not like a comic. Yeah. That's a very interesting option.
I really liked it. It was the reason why we have the beginning after the end. A comic I actually quite like. Although much like Solo Leveling, I don't think it's, like, good. I just really like it. I don't know how else to express that emotion.
Plus, in-house productions are something that Tapas have been doing for longer compared to Line Webtoon, who are just starting to get into this sort of thing.
Coughs in God of High School Anime.
Yeah, I mean, we're not just talking about adaptation, just talking about, like, productions where it's not like, hey, we plucked like somebody out from Canvas. Okay, as if people don't know already, Canvas and being discovered there is not the only way to get a feature offer or like an original offer from Line Webtoon. Okay, we have talked about how, like, people that pitch directly after being invited by editors who they've met at cons. We have talked about people who these days Webtoon are producers, and they've started, like, producing stuff in-house, like, so it's gone straight to originals as well. So like indeed. A Webtoon producer,
or you need to make a really good podcast, a really good story podcast, and then Webtoon will approach you. Offer someone a ridiculous amount of money to draw the story that you made the story podcast about, and then not put it out after 2 years. Where is it, Webtoon? David!
Oh, I'm guessing you know this, right?
Yes. I'm speaking directly to you, David. I don't actually know the rest of his name. But
well, I mean, for what it's worth, right? If it's 2 years ago, you don't forget that they had a change of, like, leadership over at Webtoon. So I don't know. Have they finished the work on it? It's just not published.
All I know about it is I know who they asked to do test art for it. I know how much they were paying for it over the course of a year, and I know vaguely what it's about, but I also don't care to remember. It's been 2 years.
So in these platforms and all that, like, NDAs are, like, given left, right, and center. They're given out like candy, and I myself am bound by one with regards to, like, some of the workings of the short story contest, but for relatively good reasons. So I know you've got your thing, and I respect that totally. I respect it. I just personally, on a personal level, do not believe in NDAs because I don't see the value that they have. I don't know. How do I put this in a way that makes sense? The only way an NDA has meaning is if you find out specifically who said anything. Otherwise, if everyone breaches an NDA, you're not gonna fire everyone. Like, you don't have the capital. You're considering Webtoon is also making a loss this year. You don't have the capital to fire everyone. Like, so you're just going to accept that someone leaked something. NDAs only have value in as much as you reveal any revealing information. Like, if I used vague knowledge of
things like how much somebody was vaguely going to earn for a job. They offered that money to everyone, to like 7 people, if I remember correctly. Which one of them are you gonna find? What are you gonna do to them? They all live in different countries. What are you gonna do, bro?
Yes. I mean, either way, like, I mean, I feel that, yes, I mean, it's always been hard to balance this degree of, like, transparency versus, like, respecting that. I mean, I respect that companies do want to still have some control over the narrative they hold, especially in this social media age where any Joe blogs can launch, like, an attack anonymously from behind, like, this...
Did you just say Joe blogs?
Yes, I did.
Is this 1995? Like, what is happening?
Well, what other name would you propose I use?
I don't know, Joe Blow. I don't actually know. I didn't have a better idea. I was just surprised.
All that said, right? Like any random schmuck can like set up a really quick anonymous Bird app account or like whatever, like any Instagram account or whatever, and or even on forums, like set up an anonymous account and just like fire accusations and attacks. And I get it; it's a cheap way to take pot shots and without any risk to the person who is accusing the company of something. Yeah. And I think by right, yes, companies do not and should not have to like address every single one of these sorts of things. Yeah. But when we said like, hey, these came like from creators who have been using the platform and enjoying for a while, and some of these things have been raised on their own forums, have they not?
Yeah, they have a lot of stuff. Over the years, all these questions have come up. They've had years and years and years to answer them. They've had years and years to say something about the different things that they've done. Sometimes when I don't have an answer, I can only make noise. I'm sorry.
It's a little bit awkward that way. I mean, yeah. So again, the long and short of it is, if you guys were hoping to see Michael on the podcast, very sorry. We laid our cards on the table. The response was,
do not trust any company. This is my long and short, not Kaz's, just me. Don't trust any company. Companies are lies. Okay.
I don't think companies are inherently bad. It's just that sometimes when money is involved, some people can be a bit about it.
I know, but I think at the point at which I am, especially when it comes to a lot of people's IP, I've just decided I understand why people care about protecting their IP. I don't care about anything I make, particularly beyond like the production of it. I don't care if somebody takes it or reuses it or whatever. But because I understand that people really care about that stuff, I think at the end of the day, it's very important for them to understand that the only person that's looking out for them in a company negotiation, when working with anybody that isn't yourself, is you. Like, companies, especially companies around comics, new age stuff with young people, have a very specific narrative that they try to push where we're all in this together, we're your friends, we're here to help you. They're not your friends. They're here to help themselves. Like, be still my beating heart, but dear God. They act really, really bloody weird, and I don't think you should ever exclusively go up to a company, they give you an offer, and you go, yeah, why not? They're definitely doing what's good for me. They're never doing what's good for you.
I will say, however, that one thing I can reveal is that in the contract negotiation phase with legal at Webtoon, we were highly encouraged to retain our own independent counsel. When looking over the contract, which is what we did. I know this is one big mistake that people don't do, is that they get a contract in front of them. They don't spend the time like doing their own legwork, or even double checking with some other professional. I get it can be quite hard to hey, who can I approach with this sort of thing. They don't ask questions, and I think we need just more prepping in terms of knowledge for other people, to people going into media to be aware of what kind of legal hooplas you might go through. So things there are some things we can just negotiate, or some things you can change the wording of, things like that. I won't say what happened with us, obviously, because NDA reasons, but I can say that we had concerns regarding some things in the contract, and they were quite easily settled.
Indeed. So, be bold when they're giving you a contract. They've already said they like you. I'm not saying be an asshole, but like, if they say something you don't like particularly, or you're not 100% sure of, ask about it.
Yeah, so here's the thing. You can ask about it, and even if they don't change the wording on it, they can actually, they will send you in writing like how this thing works, and you already have that kind of proof over there that they said in black and white they were going to do this, they were not going to do that with regards to this clause. So if touch wood, things go to pot, you still have that as a form of like, it's a supplementary way of like, protecting yourself legally besides whatever the contract wording, ambiguous or not, might be.
Also, never fall for the sunk cost fallacy of a contract. There's a really annoying thing that happens when you're working with people with contract is that this takes a long time. So you spend a lot of time either getting to know the person you're working with or getting to know the people who are like working around the clock to fix your contract and give you answers and things. It doesn't happen all the time, but it happens a lot with not just in computer science, but in video game development. Like if you start working with a new publisher, you get to know all the person who's doing your contract, who's asking you questions, who's working with you directly. And then you end up in this weird sunk cost where you feel bad to end the contract if you think something is bad because you're like, well, the contract isn't that great, but Dave worked all night on it. You end up there. It happens to some people. And I'm just saying, they're not your friend. They're good people, and I'm sure they're working their asses off. They're not your friend. Don't think about them. Just close it if you want to.
I think a good example of people who are walking away from these sorts of things, Bon Appetit YouTube channel, which I feel really sad about because I did enjoy it.
I watched so much Bon Appetit.
So a couple of people who chose to walk away from the negotiations because they just weren't happening well, and there are a couple of people who are not involved in renegotiations who said, look, I'm not happy with how this is going. Can I be released from my contract? Indeed. So Carla Lalin Music is one of them. I think a couple of other people like Molly Baz as well have said, I'm not going to do video anymore.
We stand the queens.
Yeah, and see Carla. So Carla was actually like also previously under fire when the whole Bon Appetit thing kind of went up in flames. They said that in the past that she had been like this and that and that and that, and she actually took the time to address how this worked. And in hindsight, some things might have not have been great, and apologized for it, and saying that I'm striving to do better in terms of how they center around how she had to remind people, hey, please don't come into the test kitchen randomly when you're not involved in stuff. But it seemed to be quite biased towards certain people and not towards others. So people took issue with that, and she addressed that. Now I know everyone's styles are different, and companies are not necessary. Companies for some people, but yeah. It really depends on the kind of people you've got in the company, really.
Fair enough.
I think some people feel that, the never complain, never explain kind of attitude, which is what the firm, aka the royal family of England, take on. It's probably a better route because they will go away eventually, blah, blah, blah. But I'd like to think people actually pay attention to this sort of thing. If you've not made an attempt, you're never going to get anyone trying to speak in your defense.
No, yeah, you're right.
Ever.
Yeah.
And I feel it's regrettable that, because the way I see it, Michael Swan could have taken the opportunity to go we are aware of this, we're doing this, that. Even if it wasn't really true, we're not going to come right out and call him a liar.
I was hoping he'd lie to me because I thought that'd be funny.
The thing is, we're not going to come right out and say liar if we don't have the facts, because the last thing we want to do also is to outright put out shame our guests, even if we know someone is kind of glossing over something. And because we're not we don't play hardball the same way political like journalists do. I haven't had experience like going hardball in terms of like interviews and topics, and that's my own past experience in journalism. But it's different when you're talking to someone live, and yeah, it's a bit of give and take in the goodwill part. But there are so many other ways that Michael could have turned this around and put Tapas in better light, at least. I know we're not like this big-ass show, like a big-ass podcast. We're not bleeding cool, that level of like
One
notorious.
day I will be bleeding cool, though. One day,
But-
yes. You'll see.
But, but it doesn't mean that Nen and I are like some sort of random small fry you can ignore either.
Oh,
Especially,
you called me Big Fry.
Oh yeah, this is verging on big spoon, little spoon levels. But yeah, so I can't like entirely speak for like Nen or collectively sure. I just know that where I personally stand.
Yeah.
I kind of pride myself on like actually having integrity.
Wait, are you trying to say that I don't have integrity?
It's more like I don't. No, not that, man. It's more like I don't want to speak. No, I don't want to speak like put words in your mouth. And I know Nen has felt a bit frustrated because he kind of wanted this show to go well. He wanted this show to happen in the first place. But we are not interested in just a puff piece of like, just like pure like, promotion. I think when Nen spoke to the Macroverse guys for a short cast that was...
I'm going to say this for like the third time. This short cast needs to come out this week because I've just been fucking flailing. But if you know the comic app Macroverse, and this is probably the only time I'm ever going to say this about a company in my life, they're good people. They're really good people. They really care about making comics. They really care about working with really interesting people. They've offered a service that I think is very valuable in our new economy, and they answered all of my hard questions. I literally asked them everything. I was like, "Yo, how are you approaching the issue of minority representation in your comic creation? How are you approaching working on a web platform? Yeah." Monetization. How are you approaching working with smaller creators who don't know about their creation process? And they answered my questions. They told me straight up, we've talked with lawyers. We've moved our contract to be skewed in favor of the artist as much as we can without compromising our company. And they weren't kidding. After the podcast, like there's a bit of the short cast that I cut off. That's usually just the after bit where, I talked to them. We spoke like for an hour. That was an hour after we spoke for already 2 hours. And they explained to me like contract details and stuff, and how like they personally think things are better for you as a creator. And they asked me questions. They asked me genuine questions that you guys have asked me, and I gave them answers saying, "Yo, creator said this, creator said that. A lot of people I know think this way. A lot of people I know think that way, and I think maybe you should consider them." And they're willing to consider them. It's really fucking cool. Never gonna say this about a company ever again.
Right now they're quite small, and because they're two people, it's easier for them to act on this sort of thing.
Actually,
but
it's three. There's a secret third member.
Three. But see, this sort of thing like starts from the early days, and if you don't put that in place, it's gonna be really hard to like recover eventually. Like you, especially like if you're the kind of company that like has outside investment, and obviously investors don't really care too much about the quality of things. They more like they're like, when are we going to see returns, and like how long is it going to take? How much returns can we have? That sort, and stuff. And I think this is my concern with platforms that have been funded in this sort of manner. No, like I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing,
but like with everything, there are downsides that you should consider.
Yeah, like it's in the same way that private equity has, if like the dining scene, like eating out in the UK, private equity has come in and like wrecked so many like food outlets as a result.
I see you.
Private equity, private investment.
So hello, Ian, and hello, Fresh Salmon. Anyway, the next thing I was gonna say is though the thing I want us to move on to, partially about fandom and partially about comics coming out. So, I don't know if you've noticed. Fandom, DC's fandom. Did you not see that?
No, I have not.
To be fair, I didn't see most of it. I only saw the Suicide Squad trailer. But lately, I'm gonna say lately, there has been a strangely large number of two things: comic book, like webcomic to comic book Kickstarters, which always happen, but like, I mean, this is more than usual, all happening at about the same time. And secondly, just comic creators putting out their own comics. I think these are all indie works, or at least just new series that are all coming out. Seems like a weird time for them to be coming out, in my opinion. I know there's been talk of new Teen Titans comic, which I find quite amusing. I know there's been a series of talk about a new Batman coming next year. They're talking about yeah.
Okay, so they're still doing all these things, even though like they've laid off a bunch of this.
I know, right? Yeah.
And I think what was it? I showed you like a bit where someone did like a horror comic anthology, and they said and they were saying something about like, think about like what sort of things people would be making if they didn't have to worry about hashtag profitability. And that is a really chilling thing to consider, because some people feel that, yeah, these days comics just exist to be IP farms, IP generators to go to get adapted to everything else.
And it's really weird because DC, back in the day, back in the early 2000s, DC really did its best to avoid IP exploitation. Like, there were some bad movies and some egregious pieces of merch, but for the most part, DC as a company has always tried to make money, especially the comics arm, has always tried to make money as the comic producer, and not the I give out my IP to whoever the fuck asks for it. You know, they've never been like, I'm here for the money. They were never like that before, and I don't know. It's a big shift I'm seeing, in my opinion. Like, also, did you know, and I didn't know this, DC Comics' editor-in-chief also quit?
Wait, I thought he was sacked, not quit.
I don't think they put it down as quit, so I think what happened is after he told everyone that they were getting fired, he just left.
Oh yeah, some people say, oh, he quits early, heads home, but but the news was that he that he was supposed to be fired. So
he was gonna get.
So he got cut, but legally you were given 90 days notice. But he was like, yeah, no, I'm not taking the 90 days. I'm just gonna go. That's why they said
he quits early. Oh, 90 days, 3 months. That's
3 months.
That means this is actually planned out. This isn't like You know what I thought it was to a degree when I heard about the DC closing? I thought it was just like a bunch of like DC was running out of money, so it was like the last minute layoffs of a video game company that's about to explode. You know, when they fire everyone the day before they go bankrupt.
Yeah, so what we're considering is that like DC's owners are Warner Media, and Warner Media is owned by AT&T, which is the American internet company.
The worst internet company in the world.
Well, I mean, it's not just like an internet company, but they're known for the internet. They have all sorts of like crap under them, basically.
Yeah, I know they own a lot of stuff. But also on the topic of fandom, which Ian asked, DC has a fandom. DC doesn't have a fandom, but they have a fandom. Fandom was like BCD, like like a Nintendo Direct. You know, like a Nintendo Direct where they like show you all the new Nintendo games coming out, or like E3. This was DC's version of a Nintendo Direct, DC Fandom, where essentially they kind of just show up and gloat. Hey, look, we're doing all these cool things in the next year or more. They announced things like a Black Batman, which I think is quite funny. They talked about a new superhero, or at least, I think it's a new superhero called Venus. They spent a lot of time talking about Static Shock and how they're bringing Static Shock back. If you remember Static Shock when you were a kid, if you were a kid who watched Static Shock growing up, respect, represent. And in 3 weeks, I think 200 free comics are going to be coming out. I don't know why. I think what happened is they were supposed to be out and they are not yet. But they're giving away 200 free comic books digitally for 24 hours.
also Dwayne Johnson in a DC movie.
Yeah, in the new Suicide Squad remake with James Gunn, everyone is there. It's basically Smash Brothers, because everyone is here. This is what I live for.
Yeah.
It's been an interesting period of time for comics.
Media in general,
And
yeah.
media, yeah. And I think I say interesting. It's also been tumultuous, and I feel really bad for a lot of the people who got fired, and I don't think they should have. But also, I'm thinking a lot about the people who are using this as an opportunity to create new things and find a new direction in their artistic world. You know?
I mean, who is it? Well, I mean, the guy, James Tynion, who does Razor Blades, the horror anthology, which is the one I was talking about. Yeah. He said, right, in a world where the creator-owned side of the direct market has always been dominated by IP generators, so potential for long profit tail almost always wins out against creatives who just want to explore the idea or feeling or moment in a comic just for the art of it. And sometimes even if you get to hold on to the rights, these places that let you do that and still support you are kind of still curated with by people who have been around and making comics for too long that they're not changing with the times. So it's a little bit awkward. That's why you have this whole like superhero fatigue syndrome coming in with the mainstream.
I'm quite happy that James Gunn is taking over. I'm happy with the way the James Gunn movie looks because it just looks dumb. And honestly, that's all I watch James Gunn movies for. So
like how is that supposed to be? How does that connect it to this whole? Yeah.
Oh, so basically they took they basically bashed Rambo with like with the whole like 70s. This is war. We're gonna kill all these people. Blah 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 crap. With DC superheroes, and then James Gunn's portrayal of characters, which is always to have a character either be exaggeratedly stupid or straight man or oh my god, is everything okay?
No, it's just chairs being moved at the back.
To be exaggeratedly stupid or to be weird or to be a little bit I don't know what the word for it is, but it's just the characters that James Gunn tends to show are fun. They're enjoyable. In fact, yeah, the word is fun. Like much like Suicide, much like my feeling of Solo Leveling. It's not about them being well-written characters. It's about who cares about that. We're here to have fun today. All these characters are going to be fun. Some of them are going to be definitely well-written, probably all of them. But the show, they've gone for a fun, enjoyable show where there's every kind of character that DC doesn't even talk about sometimes, and they're showing them in a new light that is interesting. And honestly, I'm here for it. I'm here for it.
But yeah, I think that's kind of, I mean, you kind of ask yourself how much of how much of like the movies, like, I mean, duty, quote unquote, is to make them like super fleshed out, and how much of it is just, oh, if you're here just for a good time, like just do that. But honestly, read the source material.
Yeah, I know. Like, I'm worried about that too. But at the end of the day, I think to some degree, right now, especially, because I think the movie is still coming out at some point. Point this year, sorry. Maybe next year, but at this general new decade that opened with a virus, a destroyed economy, and generally just kind of everyone in a weird place, we kind of need this. we really. I've been watching the Kardashians for this exact reason. I think we really need a movie like this to just enjoy.
But the thing is, right, like, let's make sure that we just pay for this sort of thing to happen. Yeah. So, like, I feel bad because sometimes the people don't want to explore certain things because they won't make money at all. And I just think they should just be tried anyway for the fun of it. And this has generally been the case with, like, comics and webtoons and stuff. Like, I know for so long, like, myself and my co-creator, we've fluctuated between, is this gonna make us money? Like we lose money in comic. We pay a colorist. But at the same time, right, it's also a nice self-indulgent thing that we kind of want to explore. We know that if we had the right eyes on it, it could be marketed like widely, but at the same time, you want to think, is this really what you want though? Because you can't micromanage mass appeal. You can have like people, if you lots of people like something, you're bound to get some sort of schmucks who, I mean, say all sorts of weird stuff, and then you go like, this is why we can't have nice things. The Steven Universe fandom, for one, is like real toxic. And then like Persona fandom's getting toxic, you know, like, but you know, max appeal. So, and as the creator, you kind of have to sort of, if that is the poison you pick, you kind of have to shut yourself off from it, and it feels a bit weird. But then if you don't go for the mass appeal route, like, okay, how are you gonna is your IP gonna pay for itself as well at the same time?
Yeah, that's a good
point. And you start like just second guessing everything, and I don't know like how many of you have been feeling the same position, like when it comes to making comics, and like why aren't I earning money and like enough money to sustain everything? But I mean, do I want like this much like acknowledgement or domain so that it's easier to earn money, or do I just want like a cult few who are dedicated and who will still like support me no matter what?
On that topic, I'm thinking like the quicker you make more money, usually the more of your vision you have to compromise. On average, like if you want, like the quicker you gain mass appeal, like think of it like if something comes out this year and makes a lot of mass appeal, usually it's compromising a lot of maybe like more tenuous elements that most publishers or producers or whatever would cut, because it's easier to sell something if it's not containing X or Y material, you know? Easier to sell a comic if it doesn't have any like any major stakes on a commentary on a social level. So why not compromise that, and then you can sell your comic this year. You'll sell 600 copies.
You see, some people are like, hey, but my stuff could just go viral and people could just love it without any interference from other people. Now, that is like a drop in the ocean, the chance of that happening. No. It's a freaking drop in the ocean.
Since when does that happen? Where am I? I want if my comic goes viral, finally, Kaz, I can make $6 million.
Yeah, like you see, even some of the best, like slickly produced things never go viral,
Like,
so yeah,
you can also win the lottery. Yeah.
I just want to say though, like for the creators who are listening into our show, yeah, I mean, or those who are listening in who have been interested in going to comics, don't go into comics if your goal is to make quick money. I mean, you could, but I mean, you could, but at the same time, it's a bit of a long shot. But
I had an exercise yesterday with someone. I did a small exercise with someone yesterday where it was all right, let's see how we want to make the most marketable comic, right? We want to make the most marketable comic right now, right here. How do we do it? As we said, okay, first step, making a marketable webcomic, first step, BL. We're going the BL route, kids, immediately. How will their relationship be? Toxic. How much story is there? Minimal. When will they kiss? Chapter 40. Like, if you want to make that comic, go for it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just fair enough to just know that like discerning readers are going to be like, unless this is a subversion on purpose, we're not going to be like.
No, we were fully like, we're going to write the easiest webcomic to write. We're going to make it easy, sell well. What are the things we need to do? And we just narrowed it down to everything we saw the people who have a lot of following do on average. And we were like, what do we do about character designs? How good do they have to be? Well, that's always here and there, but stylization is important. Like, that's kind of where we ended up. And I don't know. I think everyone should like do an exercise in making a comic like that. You don't have to put it out, but just make like at least one page.
Or create a story like that.
Yeah, create a story like that, and see how it makes you feel.
On the other hand, right? If the execution is solid, like even if at its core it's kind of like shallow, if you want, like for want of a better word, like who cares? Like sometimes people are just there for a bit of a good time, and that's why you have like guilty pleasures like the Kardashians. Oh god.
Oh my. All right, is this all are we going to be reminding me that I have been watching way too much of Kanye and Kim's adventures in my home on my television? Yes. Look, right, I know what you're talking about, but the thing is, Kim Kardashian is actually a really nice person, and I think this show just does a really bad job of portraying that. I've been following her on Twitter. She's really cool. Why am I defending myself?
I reserve judgment. I reserve judgment on that.
Pulp
Fiction versus highbrow literature. Yeah. So it's always been like this kind of conflict between it's like people who create stuff going like, I don't want to go like that whole like pulpy route or like sell out and stuff like that. And I don't necessarily think selling out is a bad thing if you can like put your own spin on how you want to sell out. And also like sometimes okay, so there is there are sayings, and when I advise people on what kind of art to do for like what kind of art assignments to take, I tell them like there are art assignments that you take for the meal, which is for money. There are art assignments you take for the real, which is like, you know, prestige in your portfolio. And there are art assignments you take for the connections that you will make. So, you know, your networking kind of stuff. Yeah, so there are comics are not immune for that. Like there are comics that you make just, I mean, for the for like the prestige of going like, hey, you know, this is like some beginning kind of thing. I worked with some cool people, so that's for the real and also for the connections. But they don't necessarily pay well. I think people have like talked about like pay being stagnant at like the big two for ages. And then there are comics that you do for the meal, like I mean, but you can't really put them on your portfolio, which is like a lot of the loot stuff out there.
Welcome to my den. All I make is H, kids.
Yeah. And it is what it is. Like sometimes some people have to do like comics that they don't necessarily vibe with creatively. Like this is not the sort of thing they would do, like even if they didn't have to worry about money, just so that they can have a chance at doing the sort of things they would do, money or not, because you know, but then they don't get to spend as much time on it. Too long didn't read. If you like something that a creator puts out there, support them however you can. Like even if you can't pay, you can't pay, share it out. Maybe someone who vibes with it as well will be able to pay.
Maybe start your own podcast, so you can exclusively talk about the fact that you think Blue Scale is a very good webcomic from the short story contest that everyone should read. But other than
yeah, and then you have your biases.
I know I have my biases. I have many biases. I've never pretended to not have them. It's just this is one of those things that just hits me in the good chemicals. I think, you know.
I think right. I think what's worth considering is that when Kari and I made the entry we did for the short story contest, to a certain extent, I also kind of felt that this is the sort of thing that I would like. We had like all concerns like, are people going to actually like it? You know, like because it is not something that is very familiar to Webtoon, like the whole like, oh wow, there's a huge moral of the story, or oh wow, that is like love and kissing and stuff like that, or you know, stupidly hot guys and stuff. But we didn't lose them entirely, at least because we had characters that were somewhat familiar. We just put our own spin on it, and we just put our own spin on it in terms of like how they looked or like what they did, and we all put our own spin on the storytelling and the art aspect of it. So yeah, see, and even then, right? You know, we had people asking us like, why didn't it place higher, or like why like or like you know blah blah blah, and it's been hard for me to like address it more in public as well. And sometimes I also do feel like, hey, we should have placed them a bit higher. But at the same time, it is a risk, and I think like it was never really going to have stupid mass appeal anyway. So the fact that it got acknowledged to be placed in a contest is still pretty like dang good, all things considered.
Yeah, I see you.
And if this encourages people to try and experiment with the same things we did in their own ways, whether it be trying to like put rhymes, like cool ass rhymes in webtoons or whatever, you know, dropping verses and shit. Yeah, go for it. Yeah, go for it.
Because I think the real question we haven't asked is, why is Middle Child Syndrome and Rocker Baby not in the contest winners? What were they thinking? What was I thinking?
I think they probably wanted to like big up the smaller people, like they were going out of their way to find contest winners that were not in the top of the list.
Oh, I get that.
Like in the popularity
I just wanted
list.
to shout out the fact that those are the two comics that we both really liked that didn't make the list.
Yeah, I was a little bit gutted about that. I mean, on the other hand, we're really happy about like some of our friends placing. So I mean, Blue Scale not placing, or like being mentioned.
Yeah.
Blue Scale did pretty good. Loci, like Loci, whatever how you pronounce that word, by Zebra, who did our art, the sprites for and like all sorts of art for the show. Zebra's comic also got a good mention. I actually cried at her story. It was good.
That is cool.
Yeah.
Who else actually got mentioned? Looking forward to the VVBG girls comic got mentioned. The one for the contest that was really.
They placed bronze. Yes.
Yeah. I think overall a lot of the stuff that I really liked got mentioned, so I'm not particularly like upset about it. A lot of the stuff that I didn't really care about also got mentioned, and that was fine too. I was really happy that Lemons got mentioned because that creator put out 2 comics in the contest, and they both got mentioned. The person who created the comic Lemons, which I've completely forgotten her name. But I read it, like it was one of the first ones to come out. I think it was called Lemons. It was one of the first ones to come out, and it was a really fun story. I really enjoyed it at the time. It was her name's Paige Walsh. That's what it was. She put out 2 comics. She put out The Woods and Lemons, which seemed to kind of play off of each other, in my opinion. The Woods is interesting, but it didn't get mentioned. Lemons was interesting, and it also got mentioned. Pretty interesting stuff.
She put 3 out. Yeah, she put 2 B entries out.
When did I miss this one? It came out later than all the other ones I read. That's why.
Okay, fair enough. But yeah, it's been interesting, I guess. Like I kind of feel for the people who are going to think that not even getting mentioned or like not even placing is a reflection of their worth, and I've been there myself as well. So yeah, I mean, it's not a reflection of your worth. Like, just sometimes, like, I kind of feel like some of it is also influenced by what Webtoon thinks their audience will like. Because, put it this way, Webtoon is a platform is not mature enough yet, and ergo, the audience is also going to be heavily skewed towards certain things. That's why you have like, oh my god, why is Webtoon doing other romances and stuff?
No, you're right, and it is quite. At the end of the day, be proud of the fact that you made something, because most people didn't. Honestly.
Yes.
Most
Some people didn't even like. They didn't make it, or they didn't finish it.
Or they didn't put it out in time. Be proud of the fact that you got an idea, you wrote it, you put it out. At least, even if 1 chapter, you did. I'm not gonna say this lightly. You did a fucking good job, right? You did a really good job, and you deserve to feel good about the fact that you put something out. Proud of you. All right, your dad is proud of you, I'm sure.
But what if they don't have a dad?
Well, listen, Kaz, let's not sweat the details right now.
Yeah,
of success is just showing up. Yeah.
I think that's pretty much like what we have for here, unless like people want to like fire questions or like.
I'm ready to take questions about anything, guys. Ask me about why I've been watching the Kardashians. To which the answer is boredom.
Yeah, like yeah. Remember I was telling you about like one comic that I liked the look of in Brain, and it didn't even get a mention, right?
Yeah.
And like the way that she addressed it on her webtoon felt a little bit like, dang, I get upset. It was a little bit
that was a trip. I mean, look, if you didn't win, I respect it. Don't badmouth people in your comment section, my dude. Never badmouth people in your comment section. That's not kosher, as the kids would say.
Yeah, a couple people were like, there's some people like, the mind-bending winners and mentions is 90% cookie cutter horror stories.
And? clearly cookie cutter horror stories mean something to someone, is what I would usually respond with. That's where I end up. Call them cookie cutter, call them bad. Somebody read them and somebody thought they were good. Maybe consider that they have value in themselves.
Yeah, I guess like I guess just keep at it. Like if you want to be the change you wish to see.
Be the change you wish. I really want to talk to the creator of Rockabait.
Why not?
I should just tweet at them and be like, "Hey, Rockababy creator, I really like your comic, and I don't shut up about it. Please come so that you can end my suffering."
But yeah, I guess that's our show.
No one's got any questions. No one's got anything. All right.
Except for have you been watching the Kardashians?
Boredom. I answered that question twice. Okay.
Yeah.
Woo! Yay! Everyone is here. I've been watching a lot of Smash Brothers play, saying the phrase "everyone is here" a lot. Yeah, I think that's for me. Thank you very much for coming to today's show, everyone. You guys are really awesome. And as always, I love seeing you all. Thank you for showing up, Gene. I don't know, you don't always comment, but I appreciate it. Thank you for showing up, Chaka and T.
Yeah.
And thank you to my usual patrons, Ian, Archangel, Nick. Okay, sorry, I got interrupted. My brain got interrupted for a second. Nick, Ayashi, and everyone else who's so awesome and wonderful and supports us. If you want to follow us on Twitter, follow me at earthbound_m. Follow Kaz at Kazastrophe. If you
please do not send hate to Michael Son or the Tapastic team.
Do not send any hate to him. I'm sure he has his reasons. It just kind of sucked. But I'm sure he's got his reasons. If you think that we're awesome, give us money on Patreon. I love you. If you think, if you just want to join our Discord, because we're having a movie night soon, join the Discord. One of those links should work. And also follow, if you're already on our YouTube channel, subscribe. We try to put out more content, and we do podcasts like this every 2 weeks, about the same time, with different people or by ourselves. Thank you very much for wasting your time, your weekend with us. I've been Nen. She's been Kaz.
Hey up.
And you've been awesome.
And if you'd like to. Yeah. Have a good one,
guys. Bye. Every day I fuck up the outro.